All right, Nick. Coming in live, bottom 9. In what has been a marathon of a baseball game. I'll just say this. For those that appreciate this show and are thankful that we do this show and Chatterbox Reds is as consistent as it is, et cetera, et cetera. If there wasn't the pitch clock and games lasted this long on average,
yeah,
I couldn't do it.
No chance.
And it's like you don't realize what you have till it's gone type thing, or you don't realize like what it used to be. I love baseball. But the idea of having a 3-hour baseball game, 3.5 hours, it's brutal. And I don't mean it. I mean that in the most, fairest way possible.
Yeah. Could you imagine doing a Blue Jays show?
No, I don't. There wouldn't be one. I'd be like, hey, guys, show's canceled.
I mean, we've had our low moments, but I mean,
yeah,
going through a 5-hour game like this. Whew.
Well, at first I was literally thinking it's got to be like one of the longest games ever. And then I kind of was like, this game's kind of on par with what they used to be, kind of on average.
It is.
I mean, I don't know.
Wild.
Yeah, very much wild. Chat's in here tonight. Thank you. Like the stream as always. Nick, I do not have the outs in front of me. I do not have the game on.
Oh, I need to put a runner on.
I presume if
we got a runner on second,
we get to 7 or
no one out.
We get to 8 runs, and I'm there.
Okay, well, we got a runner on first. Fernando has put 2 guys on. I don't know how the first guy got there, to be honest.
Yeah, who knows? That's what the crazy thing about doing the show. Come downstairs and get everything set up, and you miss about half inning of baseball. But what I didn't miss is the beef jerky that is currently still here from the last time. The gift that keeps on giving. I'll start the process of turning the game on here. That way we get a double play and we get some kind of quick little pop out. So by the time I go through the rigors of getting this game on, it'll be over, hopefully.
Diaz is warming.
Well, this will be Fernando's last outing.
I don't know. I feel like we said that before.
No, this will be it. Reds Live only has 9 minutes left.
They might have to extend it a little bit tonight.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get a box score.
Cruz is he's 1 pitch away from getting a double play, and he's 1 pitch away from getting a pop out, and that'll be the end of the inning.
There we go. There's your double play. Boom. Boom.
Look at that. He's just doing the Diaz. See, everybody in the chat wants Diaz. Get Diaz up. Cruz is doing Diaz. He's just doing what he does. Taking a page out of his book.
Oh, Chris. He did the full chest pound. Then he gives up a rocket to right field. Oh, Fernando. Oh, Fernando.
I think Guerrero Jr.
Oh, is he gonna give Diaz a cheap save here? Because
yeah.
3 runs or the runner has to be on base, right?
I think it's 3 runs plus the inherited runner, right? So you have
Yeah, I think if there's a
right,
runner
like
on
if
base,
it's if you came into the game with the bases loaded, it could be a 6-run game, right?
I think so. I don't know.
It doesn't seem right though. Gotta be honest. I don't know. Somebody in the chat will let us know. Oh man, we got people in the chat. Line drive center field. TJ Friedel's under it. And that one belongs to the Reds. All right, folks. 11-7 Reds win. We have a post-game show to do. We are a little what we would call behind because it was a long baseball game, but we'll talk about it here in just a minute.
Johnny Bench has tied it up. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in 4 straight. It was a sweep.
In the dirt, it's a wild pitch. Here comes Foster. The Reds win the pennant.
Larkins won the game.
That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2 games to none.
Welcome Joe Randa to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Chatterbox is a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded. The outfield deep and around toward right to the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on. Long drive. Right field. And this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive. Hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club.
Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my, that is a triple.
Matt McClain's first big league bomb.
Spencer Steer's first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again.
The pitch. Votto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive. Left center field. Racing back to the wall. Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? Did he? He did. He did. Reds win. Reds win. Line to the right field. Genius, the first Red ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Doesn't have a chance. The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed the no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7
Welcome into a winning edition of Chatterbox Reds and a also extra special edition of Chatterbox Reds on the night and or day, whichever time you found out that Joey Votto officially retires. We'll get into that later towards the end of the show and talk all things Joey Votto. But as always, we'll talk about tonight's game, Nick. I obviously wasn't here last night. I know it was probably a relatively disheartening one, but they find a way to win tonight and keep the spirits alive a little bit in some parts of Cincinnati.
Yeah, look, it was a fun night for the Reds. Does it mean a whole lot for the rest of the season? Probably not, but gave you a glimpse of what this team can be. Obviously we saw Ellie all year, but I mean that's how incredible he can be. Noelvi Marte, just a glimpse of what this team can be, and nice to see them finally pick up a pitcher that didn't have it. Haven't seen that all year, and we finally got that at least for one night in 2024.
Tonight's the night that I was talking about, where the offense just completely explodes and they find a way to pick up what would be a traditional letdown from a pitching standpoint. And it's good to see that it happened. It's good to see that it's possible. 11, I'm sure we'll get into it, but like 11 unanswered runs. Just an incredible night. I mean, as a Reds fan, I think when I had kind of gotten in, because I had gotten in to catch the game a little later than it started. I was like maybe an inning and a half behind, and I was I sit down and I'm just like, man, this is not going well. Like, is this how are we gonna limp to the finish line, Nick? And in a weird way, I had like I'm not gonna lie, I had just like a very 2-second thought that if this is how it goes the rest of the way, even though it doesn't matter, Nick, in the grand scheme of things in regards to win-loss, like they're going to miss the postseason more than likely regardless. Like, this will get David Bell fired is what I thought. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting down there like 45 minutes later and I'm just like, all right, well, erase everything that I had thought maybe an hour and a half ago. But nonetheless, that's baseball, sports in general, and here we are on a lovely August 21st, 2024, a day that will go down remembered by many Reds fans, not from the Toronto win, but obviously the Votto retirement. And the Toronto win seemed to help it a lot. It almost is like when the retirement was announced, the Reds got caught fire.
Hey,
yeah, some people don't believe in those things, but
Toronto cursed themselves for not bringing them up. Find out next on Chatterbox Reds.
There you go. That's the angle we need. Who knows? Blue Jays fans probably. Toronto, Canada fans in general probably think they're cursed in many more ways than just the Blue Jays, because I think they care about a different sport, and they've not had a lot of luck there, but that's here nor there. As before we jump into it, if you got anything to add, please do it now. We have some super chats coming in. Super chats galore by just what I would call nut cutters left and right. We'll get to that in just a minute. But we had the box score recap. Nick, take it away if you're ready. If you're not, then we'll find something else to do.
All right, Reds taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Reds looking for their first ever series win in Toronto in the rubber game, and things did not get off to a great start for the Redlegs. Nick Martinez gave up 3 home runs for the first time since 2022. And the Reds found themselves down 6-0 after 3 innings. Reds offense didn't get a hit through the first 3 innings off Jays starting pitcher Yuriel Rodriguez. Ellie De La Cruz finally got the Reds' first hit of the game, but then was thrown out trying to stretch it to a double on a pretty incredible play by Blue Jay center fielder Dalton Varsho. The next batter, though, Tyler Stevenson singled, and then with 1 out, Spencer Steer crushed a home run to left field, and the Reds cut the Blue Jays' lead to 6-2. In the top of the 5th, Santiago Espinal, Noelvi Marte, and Jonathan India all singled, and that made it a 6-3 game. Marte and India pulled off a double steal, and then Ellie singled both of them home to make it a 6-5 game. Ellie took second base on a wild pitch, and then he stole third base for his 60th stolen base of the season. Ellie became the 5th player in Major League Baseball history to enter the 2060 club. Ellie then scored on the contact play when Tyler Stevenson reached on an error, and just like that, we had a tie ball game. Spencer Steer reached on another error. Ty France was hit by a pitch. That brought Santiago Espinal to the plate for the second time in the inning, and Espinal drew a walk to put the Reds up 7-6. Now, Nick Martinez came back out the bottom of the fifth. He did get Vladdy out, but then he gave up a double, and his day was done. Tony Santillan came in. He worked around a walk and an error, but kept the Reds ahead 7-6. Noelvi Marte, he was having a tough night in the field, but he led off in the top of the sixth with a big home run to right center field to put the Reds up 8-6. Jonathan India made it back-to-back homers to make it 9-6. Ellie then walked. He took second base when Blue Jays reliever Eric Swanson failed on the third pickoff attempt, which automatically gives Ellie second. Tyler Stevenson then doubled Ellie home to make it 10-6 Reds. Then in the top of the eighth, Ellie hit an opposite field home run, number 22 on the season. Reds scored their 11th unanswered run, and the Reds bullpen got the job done. Tony Santillan, Buck Farmer, Sam Moll, and a couple innings from Emilio Pagan. Fernando Cruz did give up a run in the ninth, but the Reds win 11-7. Largest comeback win of the season. Previous high was only 4. Biggest comeback win for the Reds since April of last season. And as mentioned, Reds get their first ever series win in Toronto. Reds now 62-65 on the season, and the Braves did lose, so the Reds are now 5.5 out of a playoff spot.
I love that we're still scoreboard watching. My God, my God, my God. I love it. I tell you what, I can't do nothing but at this point respect it. The Deep Drive of the Day is sponsored by DSC, and they are a leader in renewable commodities. And who hit it? Spencer Steer. Spencer Steer. 2-run home run, 19th of the season. Fly ball to left field, 104.9 off the bat. That's how you know when things are precise. We don't round up around here. It's 104.9. The hell with 105. 400 feet, it would give the Reds a deficit of 6-2, and the win probability prior to that home run was 3.4%. Now just think, we could have saved all of our bench players. We could have saved our bullpen. We could have saved everybody. We could have saved some time. Everybody could have gotten dinner on time. The hell with playing the rest of the game. We could have just said, the Blue Jays win. It's 3.4%. But no, they played the rest of the game. And believe it or not, the Reds won 100% of the time. It's quite a thing, I tell you. Sports, it's unique. DSC, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information, and thank you to our friends at DSC. I got this thing that I can see Nick in the preview screens while I'm doing this stuff, and you start poking the bear a little bit. You have fun. It's going to be probably a 45 days that we're just going to grind through, to be quite frank. And I'm just going to do my best to, take little jabs as he will too.
Hey, I made the graphic. I teed you up for it. I knew exactly what you were going to do with that information. You know what? I said, let's give Trace one. Put it right on
threw the dog a bone.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's nice of you. I'm glad that you did that. Where do we start? I mean, listen, I don't know how big of a deal all of this ends up being. Of course, I think it's been well documented where I stand on the season and the overall kind of appearance of what this Reds club has at their disposal and what they're going to need to have at the end for them to get themselves back into any semblance of a race. And I don't think they have it. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think they have it. That said, though, like we watch these games and you want to be entertained, and tonight was off the charts entertaining just because of I had them dead. I'll be honest. I had them dead. Clearly 3.4%. That's pretty damn near dead. But they put together some good at-bats. And I also just want to say openly, I thought the Blue Jays helped them out quite significantly. But they put some together. You know what's funny is the last thing I'm going to say here before the Rally Reds. Baseball is such a weird game, right? Ellie tries to take second base, and that feels like a huge missed opportunity because he gets thrown out, and then all of a sudden you get a single and you get a home run, and you're like, oh my gosh, it could be 6-3 instead of 6-2. We'd be right back in this kind of. And then you realize towards the end of the game that maybe that just wasn't that big of a deal. However, having said that, I still would we've talked about this 1,000 times. I'd like for Ellie and the whole team really to kind of understand maybe the situation's a little bit better. But I thought one of the better at bats of the night was a ground out to first base, and people are gonna think I'm crazy for saying that, but like I thought TJ Friedl did a good job getting Ellie to third base. Ellie did one of the first times all year, Nick, where I actually seen the pitcher disengage 3 times. Because typically they won't throw over that third time. They'll just take their chances and make them steal the base. That didn't happen. They get him over to third base, Nick, and then they gotta ruin it. They don't get him in. So like the 2 opportunities tonight that I thought they did a masterful job of probably scoring some runs. Neither one of those guys score, and they still scored 11 runs. It's just a weird night.
Yeah, baseball's a funny game. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, it's again, you have a night like tonight. It feels good. It feels great. You can't help but think, man, that month of May, like,
because that's it.
This team's had some bad moments in the second half, but they're still above 500, right? I mean, they haven't played terribly. It's just that month of May, unfortunately, kind of killed them. But again, this is just it's nice to see some of the pieces that you're really counting on in the future. The biggest thing is just seeing Noelvi Marte put a couple big swings on a couple pitches. That home run was a big home run in the game because it was only a 1-run game at that point, and it felt like there was going to be a lot more runs scored. Just kind of the way the game was going. So good to see him, and also good to see him not hang his head after a tough air. Like, you want to see him make that play that he bobbled. But it wasn't the easiest play ever at third base. But good to see him not hang his head, come right back out. Next inning, hit a home run, make up for it. He's a very young player, and Reds need him to be good. So definitely a good step in the right direction for him.
I think the one thing with Marte that is yet to be determined is what kind of worker he is and whether or not he's going to progress and get better and put himself in a position where heading into next season, he's well above where he stands or where he has been at the last month and a half. And there's a lot of excuses that you can make for Marte. And I think if he didn't do what he did, I think he would get a pass from a significant amount of this fan base. But since he did it to himself, no one feels sorry for him. But the fact still remains the same, that he's not played in Major League Baseball. He's not played baseball, right, for a significant amount of time. And whether you believe in Marte still or not, that's not my point. My point is that I have a hard time personally getting myself into a position where I'm going to make a huge, drastic statement about Noelvi Marte on 2 months of baseball, 3 months of baseball, where he sat out half the season before he even got here. So I'm not, again, to be clear, I'm indifferent on him. I'm not all in on him. I'm not thinking you can't just pencil him in as your everyday third baseman or right fielder or DH, whatever ultimately he ends up becoming, going into 2025. But you also aren't going to convince me that I shouldn't be excited that he's still a part of this, core group of players that's possibly going to hopefully lift this team to new heights that we've not seen as Reds fans. So, and Reds fans as an our age, I don't want to disrespect the folks that got to see the 1990 team and the 75 and 76 teams. So that's kind of where I stand on Marte as a whole.
Yeah, I think 2 things can be true with Marte. I think that it's silly, absolutely ridiculous to give up on him. It's silly not to still see like all the promise that he has as a prospect. And I'm with you. I don't think that really there should be a whole lot made out of his season this year. But at the same time, the Reds should not be banking on Noelvi Marte at this point to be their starting third baseman in 2025. He hasn't done enough. He needs to go into spring training and unseat someone to take that spot. The Reds should have a option that Noelvi Marte essentially has to outplay to get there. Now, again, if he has an incredible 6 weeks the right into the season, then maybe he has a little bit less to prove going into camp next year. But I think the 2 things can be true. I mean, again, like, growth is not just this nice, easy trajectory. We saw it with Ellie De La Cruz last year, like
beginning of this season.
Yeah. Like, you don't know when these guys are going to kind of take off. It takes time. But he didn't get to be a top 25 prospect by accident. So he needs time. But if that time needs to be in AAA to start next year, that's fine too. It just, it is what it is.
Right. No, there's no doubt it's a slap in the face to Reds fans to convince everybody that you're playing win at all costs baseball and you're playing Noelvi Marte for an extended period of time this year at third base. So I think that's part of the reason of frustration for Marte too, is that they've kind of put him in a tough spot from some portion of the fan base that's tired of seeing him get every day at bats when he's not, quote unquote, deserved that when you're trying to make the postseason. Now, Nick, I don't mean to be overly brash about this, but I do think that at some point Nick Krall made an executive decision that he'll never admit to, that he wanted to try to start focusing on what maybe he could try to learn about this year's team going into next season, because he had already, quote unquote, written the season off. Whether you want to believe that or not, I don't care. I just think that's the truth, because they would have never played Marte for an extended period of time at third base if that wasn't part of the deal. Maybe that would be a good case study if the Reds were 5 games in the positive of a wild card standings, like they were, call it 80% or higher to make the postseason. I think we all know, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think we all know that Marte would be treated differently. But he's not, because they're not in that position. So the Reds made a decision to try to see what they have in him, or give him as much at bats as possible against Major League pitching to help his development. And it's hard to fault them for that if he comes into next season and he plays really, really well, and maybe part of that is to get the rust off at the end of the season. I'm not suggesting that's the right way or the wrong way. I just think that's the truth. Put it that way.
I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of both with Marte. I think that when he came back, I think most of us thought he was still the Reds' best option. It wasn't necessarily just playing him to play him. It was kind of like you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And then it kind of got into a spot where the Reds were like kind of in it, kind of out of it. And I do think that Ahmed Rosario claim, I think that if the Reds hadn't got swept by the Royals, I think Noelvi Marte was the odd man out. So they very well might have been benching him, but they get swept by the Royals, and then your thought process has to kind of change in terms of what you want to get out of the rest of the season. So I don't know. At this point, I say play him. The odds are just not high enough to waste at bats with someone that means nothing. If you think that Noelvi Marte can get some at bats, but Noelvi Marte playing the rest of the season should have no bearing on your plans for next year. Just because he's playing now doesn't mean he's guaranteed time next year. This is different because you're starting at when you're in a spot where you're highly unlikely to make the playoffs.
Correct. Jumping into, obviously, Nick Martinez starts the game tonight. Not his best outing, but it almost felt like he was due to have a relatively mediocre outing. But again, what's the famous phrase where you do the same thing over and over and over again? Groundhog's Day is like one of the phrases I know people use, but it seems like it's like clockwork on this show where it didn't walk anybody. So I guess that makes it to where it's seemingly okay. Your thoughts on Martinez?
Well, he doesn't ever walk anyone. I don't know if you saw the stat I gave last night with Craig, but he has the lowest walk rate of anyone in baseball that had, I think it was 90. What was the minimum? The absolute best. There's no one better. So he's absolutely elite at that. Yeah, he was kind of due, I guess. It was disappointing, more so just because of where the Reds' rotation is right now. And again, I've said it. It swings. You get high on the rotation, and things happen. And look at the offense. Actually, they look a little better right now. It just, you don't want to get too high or low on one side of the ball, because things can just change really rapidly in a baseball season.
I think, and don't quote me on this, I think Nick Martinez is like 2 innings shy. Maybe it's 3 innings shy of walkless, if you want to call it that, innings of like a franchise record. Could be wrong on that, but
Not 100% sure.
the point
He's got to
is
be close.
I think it's 26 innings when I took a peek at it, and he's at 24 point something. So we'll see ultimately if he's able to do it, because if he does it, then everybody will make a big deal about it, similar to David Bell breaking the record as a franchise being ejected. That was on nobody's radar until all of a sudden it was on everyone's radar when he was tied. So we'll see if Martinez can keep it up. But Santillan came in and kind of got them in a position where you started to continue to have momentum. I will also openly say, I thought Santillan, this is the weird thing about baseball. He threw the ball well. I'm not taking anything away from him. But he also threw a couple what I would call mistake pitches that didn't get hit. And he got a swing and miss on a big swing and miss on a full count where it was a ball. But again, it was close enough to the zone that the guy swings at it. It's just a weird sport, Nick. It's a weird sport. You sit there and you start thinking about like all the what ifs. And I was thinking about that with Ellie going home on the contact play. If he's out, then all of a sudden everybody hates it. It's like, it's such a weird thing to do these reaction or post-game shows, because it's like, I don't know how many times we sit here and give the guy an actual real rating on their performance of what they did and not on what everyone else did around them. And I know that those two things go hand in hand, but the 3-2 pitch, I will admit, it was a two-seam or looked as if it was a two-seam or something that had some run on it. So where I thought it was a good pitch. It's just funny that if the guy makes a great take, then all of a sudden we're mad at Santillan for walking the first guy coming into the game. So anyways, Santillan's been excellent, as he's been almost all year, dating back to AAA.
Well, yeah, I mean, Santillan got lucky, but he also, when you throw the ball as hard as he does, you have a little bit better margin for error than a guy like Carson Spires last night. I mean, that's the difference in throwing 98 versus 93. Right. The best performance, or the most notable performance for me, is Emilio Pagan. He's looked much better coming back off the IL, and that's the kind of stuff I'm really looking for this year, because he's under contract next year. He's a guy you're paying a decent amount of money next year, and getting him right and being a bona fide setup guy for next year, especially with Lucas Sims now gone. Fernando Cruz kind of falling off a cliff, although we shouldn't give up on him by any stretch of the imagination by next year. But him getting back on track is one of the things that I think is one of the, maybe not one of the top 5 biggest things to watch for in the rest of the year, but I'd say probably in the top 10.
Top 10. You'd have to give me a while for me to make a top 10 list, and maybe
we might have a few shows to come up with that list.
Maybe he's in the top 10. I don't know. I'm not giving that much thought, to be fair. And I'm hopeful that we're in a position at some point on August 21st, 2025, where I'm not considering the top 10 guys that I'm thinking of heading into 2026. Sure hope not. I pray.
Adding a little bit to that, so Emilio Pagan, if you feel better, if he looks better here at the end of the year, you feel better about him. It just helps you plan better this offseason. So if he looks terrible, I mean, you almost kind of have to look at some upgrades for your bullpen. I know the Reds still have some options with guys at AAA and whatnot, but you almost, if he really struggles and Cruz doesn't get back on track, you almost feel like you have to bring in another veteran right-handed reliever. So that's why I think that is important. And if he solidifies that, well, that's more money that you can put towards like the big outfielder that we all want right now.
I just hope that they get lucky in whatever they decide to do. And I say luck is in kind of the essence of the word, because sometimes a guy can perform well towards the end of the season. You think you got something going great, and you put him out there next year and he's a shell of himself. Or the contrary. He could throw the ball kind of poorly here towards the end of the season and kind of gets himself back in shape, or whatever phrase you want to use. Comes out next year and throws the ball incredibly well. I just hope they get it right. So if they do decide to spend money in certain areas of this ball club, they're not wasting their money because they got something here that they didn't think they'd have, and here if they thought they did have it. Who knows? But point is it's going to be a massive offseason for this team. It is simply put, it's going to be a massive offseason. And they're going to have to get some things right because I do think that there's a decent chunk of this fan base that is needing a sales pitch desperately, and I'm hopeful the Reds will give it to them. So, jumping in the back half, we have some super chats. We have Joey Votto. We have Nutcutter Nation just absolutely killing it tonight. You know what's crazy is I just see like really quickly, Molly Votto. What a night for her, by the way. Votto still bangs. Joey Votto, thank you, is her thing. She's a member for 10 months, man. 10 months. Sometimes I'm like, we've been doing Chatterbox for 10 months. Thank you. Also have some content coming to members only here relatively soon, at least to try to do some stuff on my end. But before we get to all of the supers, I just want to say thank you to Game Time. Use the service as always, and delivers. I mean, you use the service, you need tickets, you get tickets. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple once you get on the app. That's the best thing about the app is that, we can sit here and talk about what our favorite thing is, Nick, and of course mine is the 2 clicks and you're done because I don't know, I don't like fumbling through a bunch of stuff, being able to use Apple Pay and the whole 9 yards, no free ads to Apple. But point is that I used it. It's excellent, and you can use it too. And if you're going to use it, you should use the code CINCY, C-I-N-C-Y. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. That's using the code CINCY, C-I-N-C-Y. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, of course. Terms do apply. But if you're looking to go down to the ball yard a few more times here, that's one thing I'll admit, Nick. I think to myself sometimes in the dead of December, the dead of January, the dead of February, I'm like, I know that the Reds were terrible in September. I know they were terrible. But I would love just to go to a nice ball game when it's 70 degrees outside. The weather has been unbelievable the last week in Cincinnati. And, maybe I shouldn't take it for granted getting a chance to go down the ball yard. And if you're going to go, use the Game Time app, download it today. And as always, use the code CINCY. 988, text, call anytime you need it. Mantherapy.org. Mantherapy.org. I'll play a little game here. No big deal. If you go to mantherapy.org, pick a number 1 through 8. Nick.
Pick a number 1 through 8.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I'll do 1 for the first of 9 for Joey Votto.
1. 1 is going to be anger on the list. So if there's like 13 things on there. No shout out to firearm safety. Sorry, I left them off the list because it was towards the end. But point is, there's a whole host of things you might need some semblance of help with. Anger turns out to be the number 1 thing there. Not number 1 on their list, just number 1 on the list of the rundown. Probably because it's in alphabetical order. I'm not going to say that that's for sure what it is, but that's what it appears to possibly be. I could use that from time to time, for being honest. Especially watching some baseball games from time to time. So shout out to mantherapy.org, as always, providing resources to folks who need it. All right, I got some supers to get to, Nick. Some of these got some questions in them, so I'm sure we'll get to some content through that. Rolf coming in hot says, I'll keep it light tonight. This is the wildest baseball game I've seen this season. Down 6-0, 11 unanswered runs by the Reds. Diaz caught a home run in the bullpen. Wrench. What am I missing out on the wrench? I don't know. Maybe is he. Anyways, Rolf, please do me a favor, okay? I ask you this all the time. Can you pick some dates, send them to me, and we can make sure we go to the ball yard? Elijah Bard says, Diaz to right field with the Marte home run catch. We could be 0-120, and tonight will always get me hyped. Do you think 3 disengagements should count as a steal? Yes, it should, Elijah. Yes, it should. I think
you've earned it. You've earned that steal more than a lot of other steals where the catcher just makes a bad throw. I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
100% should be a steal. I mean, listen, if you are causing that much disruption in the base pass where they're that worried about you that they're going to have, the courage to throw over 3 times. And they damn well know what they're doing on the third one. Let's be honest. They know it's a do or die situation. Yes, 100% should be a steal.
It's a good point that it didn't count. I didn't mention that, but yeah, that's a good point from Elijah there.
Yeah, it should be a steal. They'll fix that at some point, I would think. I could be wrong, but it's just like, yeah, I hate that.
On Elijah's point, the 0-120 tonight will always get me hyped. Yeah, that's one of the great things just about baseball is, like any team can have a night like tonight. The Chicago White Sox beat up on the San Francisco Giants tonight in San Francisco. Like baseball just has those. I was thinking today, going down, memory lane on Joey Votto. Somehow I thought about a game in 2008 that I went to with my dad. It was a game on a Monday. It was the Reds had already played their last like official home game of the year. Did the whole the giveaway on the last day of the year and whatnot. But they had a makeup game with the Marlins the next day in 2008. So there was like no one there. I went down with my dad. Reds had a crazy comeback win. Joey Votto had a home run in that one. And it was like the Reds were going nowhere that season. But it's one of my favorite baseball memories. So shout out to you, Elijah. It's just a good point about what makes baseball great.
Mark Fetter says extend Ellie ASAP. For those that don't know, that means as soon as possible.
Thank you.
That's we're not going to do that tonight, are we? Game Day 513 says blank check.
I guess we are doing that today.
Michael Rolfe says, who gets the bigger AAV deal? Chase or Helly? If the Bengals sign 2 players for $37+ million, the heat is on the Reds to sign Ellie. The heat is on the Reds to sign Ellie, regardless of what the Bengals do. I dug up the AAV, I guess, of what I expect. What I expect of Jamar to get. And is it basically like $29 million a year? Is that what we're looking at? Somewhere in there? Or $30 million a year?
For what? How many years? I don't follow.
That's what I'm trying to figure out here. There's too many things that are going on. All right, total guaranteed is 13. It looks like 13. Is that right? I'm gonna need the number. Someone's gonna have to help me out. This is why I don't do the statistic stuff, because I'm not good enough with these damn websites to figure it out. But $13 million a year guaranteed for 4 years. That isn't right. Because I'm looking at his base salary right now, and it's like $35 million. So, wow, I don't know. Maybe it's a bad website. But regardless, Nick, I'm going to tell you right now, Ellie De La Cruz is getting more AAV. Unless they sign him to like a 15-year deal or a 20-year deal, just because they got to do the car payment model, which is we know that this car is going to be probably broken down by the time we pay it off, but this is just how we have to pay for it.
How the NFL must have the worst players union in the history of professional sports. If small market teams like the Reds could spend more money on an individual player than they'll spend, like they must have the worst union. I just don't even understand how a league that prints that much money, like the players get such few
$35 million.
But how many years is that? Like, he's not getting 20 years, right?
No, he's not getting 20 years. He's getting $110 million guaranteed. Staggering 110 million guaranteed for Justin Jefferson. He inked a 4-year deal. So that's 30, 60, 90, 120. So it's a little less than 30.
You don't think the Reds would sign, if those were 4 years, his first 4 years of free agency at that, the Reds would sign that tomorrow. They would.
Well, yes, but they're okay. Yes, but they're talking about AAV in general. So I guess that's the point. So even though it's only 4 years,
AAV is easy when you're not committing till 20.
Well, of course, that wasn't the question. Yeah, that wasn't the question, because of course NFL players are never going to win the battle that is what MLB players get paid. I think it's a fair question if you just go strictly off AAV. So if we're going to use the number of 30 million, will he get 30 million AAV? And I think the answer is yeah. I mean, what's Witt getting? Witt's getting 30.
I think it might be slightly under 30. because it's 12 years.
Oh, I thought it was 10.
It's 11-year, 288, so that's slightly under 30,
Yeah,
right?
all right. Yep. Yeah, so that's like
I think-
20,
I think-
25 or something like that.
I think Ellie would probably be right around 30. Maybe probably gets more years because he's 2 years younger than Witt is right now.
Can I also say this? Ellie is 2 years younger than Witt, but Witt is unbelievably good. So it's like, how much more can he get over Witt? I don't know. I don't know if he's getting an extra $5 million a year over Witt. I do think he could get something close.
Yeah, I think it's comparable, but I mean, you got to also look at Witt's Junior's numbers when he was 22. They're not as good as Ellie De La Cruz's.
I know. I'm well aware of how good Ellie De La Cruz is. He's incredibly good.
But Witt's incredible too. I'm not taking anything away from him.
No, Witt right now, point blank, is probably the better player, right? I don't think that's debatable, but I do think
if you had
I mean,
one player for the rest of the year, you would take Witt right now.
Yeah,
Like,
but
I can say that.
Yeah, well, we're like splitting hairs right now over like unbelievable players. But my point is that we both know that Witt's the better player at this very moment. It's just more or less like, hey, that's still 2 years removed. And not only that, but how many more years of Ellie could you possibly get that out of? And again, maybe there's a ceiling here that gets hit by Ellie, but it just seems like Ellie's ceiling's higher than all of these guys, with all due respect to all of them.
Agreed.
All right. Feder says Molly Votto 2024. It's a campaign season. It's this campaign season. Game day, as I already said, he said blank check. And Ned Flanders coming in hot as always. Ned Flanders says, guess we found out Maley wasn't available tonight. Survived that somehow. Was the Rosario signing a hoax? The Rosario signing is definitely a question that should be asked in about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years from now to Nick Krall. 100%. If you can put that in the memory bank, write it down, and remember in 5 years, if Nick Krall is still around, let's ask the Rosario question.
You'll see Rosario on Friday night against Bailey Falter, Pirates lefty. I think the Reds are going to probably play him mostly as a platoon player. Maybe some spot starts here and there against right-handed pitching. But I think that when the Reds got down to within, was it 3.5 games? Was that how close? I don't remember how close we got, but I think that they would have considered sending Marte down then. And I don't think they would have put in that claim if they knew they were going to get swept by the Royals.
Correct. No, you're right. They put it in on Thursday. And by Sunday, it was something they wish they wouldn't have done. Or just, they were like, wow.
But who cares? It's just money for 1 year. Like,
right.
I don't really care if that's a little bit of their margins.
Yeah, they might, it cost them a little bit of money, which is kind of wild to think that they have that much money sometimes. Like, you could just burn that much money. But that's part of it. That's how it goes. All right, Ellie, 2060 Club. He did it tonight, stealing a bag. I at this point, like, the whole Ellie thing, I just hope people appreciate him, because we're going to get into a guy next that I just don't know, from appreciation level. There's certain portions of our fan base that absolutely adore him. But it always comes at a cost because of what he got paid. And it comes at a cost of what the Reds weren't able to do, which was win when he was here. And by win, they won some years. Let's not act like they didn't win a couple years when Votto was here. They just weren't able to break through the wall, if you will, the thing that stopped this team from being laughed at and made fun of in this city, which is to win a playoff series. But more or less, I just hope that when Ellie kind of continues to play with this franchise, if they are able to extend him, or even if they aren't able to extend him, that you just accept what's in front of you, and you understand how unbelievably gifted this guy is at playing the game of baseball from a talent level. I don't think he's the most polished player yet, but damn, is he not just enjoyable to watch? I mean, he's like a cartoon character at times, just doing things that you're just like, no one else can do this, quite literally.
Yeah, I think tonight's a night that, like, baseball statistics is why it's important, in my opinion. Because you watch Ellie De La Cruz, and, like, he's been great all year, but, he's maybe scuffled a little bit of late, and you kind of just forget. And then you see a stat like he's the 5th player in the history of Major League Baseball in the 2060 club, and it's August 21st. Like, just how bonkers is that? This is his first full season in the big leagues, and he's already hitting a milestone like that. It's just a reminder, like you just said. I mean, appreciate it, because while I hope and pray the Reds are doing every single thing that they can, they may do every single thing that they can and still come up short. And if they do, it is what it is. Appreciate the hell out of him now, because you're never going to see another player like this. There'll be great players to play for the Reds again, but there's never going to be a player like Elly De La Cruz again.
Yeah. I agree. I do think that there's a some semblance of reservations on giving him a significant amount of money over a significant amount of time, just based off the fact that, you know, you just get scared on the what ifs of the world. And I know that you can't do that, because ultimately you gotta try to make the decision on the front end. You can't play hindsight with these things. But that kind of leads me into the next guy, which is Joey Votto retires tonight. You get into a position where you think back on his career. He signs the big contract. He's really the only guy that signed the massive contract. I guess if you want to say Homer Bailey signed the massive contract, you can. But he's the one guy out of the core group of all of the Jay Bruces, Brandon Phillips, Homer Baileys, Johnny Cueto's of the world, of that era of baseball, Reds baseball, that he was the one guy that got paid, if you want to call it that. And I think that that was the one thing that hung over his head from a certain portion of this fan base. Whether they are right or wrong, I just want to openly say, like, if you're somebody that gets hung up on the fact of wins and losses of what Joey Votto, team did when he was here, I just think that you're wrong. I just think you're wrong. I say that as respectfully as possible, because I do think that there are certain people that say, hey, listen, that wasn't a good contract. Joey Votto this, Joey Votto that. That takes away from, like, him the player. And my thing is, like, him the player in and of itself was special. If you want to argue about the economics of baseball and what his contract meant for this organization and all that, to me, that's a completely separate conversation, Nick. It's a completely separate conversation. But the reality is that what he put on the field on a day in and day out basis for this franchise is something that you should, at minimum, respect. At minimum, respect. And I would say, for the most part, for the vast majority of us that are fans, he's one of the handful of guys, maybe 5 or less guys, that without question is going to go down as an all-time great in make Cooperstown. I have a hard time believing that there's going to be more than maybe 2 or 3 or 4 Reds in my lifetime that are going to go into Cooperstown, and maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But he's one of them. And to just get hung up on the whole, well, they didn't win, this, that, and the next, it just seems like you're missing the point.
Yeah, the economics of baseball were a little bit different back then, but he still had to commit to Cincinnati as well. Like, that's a point that I think gets missed sometimes, is that he committed to stay in Cincinnati and worked his tail off through a lot of really brutal seasons. Man, you think back on his career and you wish 2012 would have gone different, because just so much about him and the Reds together combined have a different feel. If a ball bounces a different way, 2020, the COVID year, if that COVID never happens, that's a full season. I think that team is built maybe even better than the 2012 team. But nonetheless, I mean, just, Joey Votto is a guy that's responsible for me being more invested in, like, things like analytics. So if you hate that, you can blame Joey Votto for that, because once I started seeing, the way that he approached the game, and I wanted to understand more about it. I wanted to understand why, he thought a walk was valuable. I didn't understand that. And so I dug more into it, and I read more and put more time and effort into that, and changed a lot and molded my entire baseball, philosophy and the way I view the game because of that. But the most impressive thing I think about Joey Votto's career is his 2021 season to me, because he was written off And there was pretty valid reason for him being written off then. And what he did at age 37 in that year was just incredible. There's just so few players that have ever done anything like that. And I think his 2021 season, that'll probably be one of the years that I just remember the most fondly from him, just because of how incredible it was for him. And it I think it took a toll on him too. And playing at that high of a level for that entire year, that it honestly probably was what was the last straw for him. Like, if he would have played maybe at a little less effort in 2021, he might have lasted a little bit longer. I honestly believe that.
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly ultimately what happens towards the end of guys' careers. I think that it was very, very, sincere, the note that he wrote that just said, frankly, he wasn't good enough anymore, right? And like, that was refreshing to read, because I felt like there are times, and certainly you have heroes and sports heroes that you just don't want to believe that they're not good enough anymore. And it felt like we were kind of getting in a weird spot as Reds fans towards the end of his career here, because his contract was running up. You had to make a decision on whether you pick up the contract, and we all knew that that was absolutely absurd. Most people that had a rational mindset with what the decision was with Joey Votto, whether they were going to pick up the $20 million option or not, I mean, it was obvious that they weren't, and it was also obvious that it was about time. And it's a shame that he got hurt in spring training, of all things, like slipping on a baseball bat. Like, it stinks that that's the way that it had to end, but it's always going to end. And it's probably not going to end all that well, Nick, the vast majority of the time. I thought it ended relatively well with the Reds. I do. I personally do. They were right in the thick of it. They were playing with a fun brand of baseball. He kind of was a part of that that energetic nature of the team. And it was just refreshing to see that side of him come out towards the end of his career. And I'll also openly say this, like, I think that there's a certain portion of the fan base that I can, sympathize with or empathize. I don't know what the right word is. One of those words is the right one. I don't know which one goes hand in hand. Point is, I get where they come from with the fact that, this team never was able to get over the hump with him. And then on top of that, you find yourself in a position where, he was the only constant the entire time, so you want to pick on him. I get the idea of it. I just don't think that it's fair to Joey, personally. And I've said this before, Nick. The last thing I'm going to say on Joey Votto is this. There's two ways you can go about handling your business when you get paid a lot of money. Guaranteed money, by the way. I don't know if people understand that you could just slack off and become overweight, and not care anymore, and just become a shell of yourself and still get paid. But you can do that in Major League Baseball. He not one time ever came off, at least. Again, I'm not behind closed doors. Not one time did it ever seem like he was taking days off. And I think that's the thing that I appreciated the most about Joey Votto, is that I thought that he showed up to work every day and he was doing his best. Whether or not he performed his best, that's one thing. But damn it, I not once thought to myself, Nick, I really wish Joey Votto cared more. Or I wish Joey Votto would treat his job a little more serious. And that, when you get paid a boatload of money, is a very, very, very large kind of testament, I should say, to your character. And I'm well aware of all the things that have been said or rumored this last few days about kind of that whole situation. Not one time did I ever question Joey Votto's sincerity to try to make the Reds a winning baseball team.
I think the way Joey Votto ended his career with the Reds was very well. Like, I think that it could have ended a lot uglier. There's a lot of situations, like look at Steven Strasburg, the way that ended with the Nationals, their World Series MVP, Albert Pujols with the Angels. Miguel Cabrera, up until his victory tour last year, it wasn't necessarily going swimmingly in Detroit, and he's one of the best players to ever play first base. So I don't know, the way that it ended, him getting to be a part of Ellie's first season, him getting to have some two big home runs on game number 12 of the 12-game win streak, getting to have that hit in his last at-bat. And honestly, I think it's incredible that he got thrown out in his last game. I think that's just the most Joey Votto thing ever to happen. So I don't know. I think it ended very well. I really, to the crowd that says, "Wow, the Reds didn't do enough for him," I don't know. I think it ended very nicely, and it could have ended ugly because a lot of other situations end ugly. And the more long-term guaranteed contracts, you're going to see a lot of more ugly situations happen. And it honestly ended very well. And a lot of it, too, is to Joey Votto's credit. Because while I think me and you both agree that the Reds made the right decision to move on, it would have been very easy for Joey to be upset about that. And you wouldn't really even fault him on that. And he could have thrown shade at the Reds. And it really would have been on his side and his camp justified. But he didn't do it. He was the better man. And I think you have to respect the way that he did that.
I do think he took the high road. I'd also say he made like $200 million, so that helps. I mean, if with all due respect, if anyone pays me $200 million for whatever 12 years of service, if I think that they're the world's worst people on the way out, I'm not throwing shade. I just can't do it. I mean, that's so. It's a cool day. I know some people are sad about the day. It's not sad, because this was inevitable. We've seen this coming. Last season, I was screaming to the moon. I remember, vividly on this show telling everybody that there's 8,000 people, Nick. There's 8,000 people down at the stadium, and Joey Votto has like 5 games left in a Reds uniform. And it's like nobody wanted to – I'm not saying no one wanted to listen to me, but it just seemed like you can't act like this wasn't coming is what I'm getting at. So shout out to Joey Votto. Many great memories. And I almost put out a tweet. I'm going to end in the segment on this. I almost put out a tweet that I knew would do incredible numbers. And we are in the numbers game, Nick. But I didn't do it because I just thought it was disingenuous. And I didn't want people to think that I actually believed it. But I was really close to going Barry to the clubhouse, Votto to the booth. Reds 2025.
I mean, you're the David Bell hater. You've put yourself in that corner.
I almost did it because, I mean, the algorithm on Twitter probably had me right in line with those viewpoints. But I thought to myself, as much as I would love for Barry to be out of the booth, I don't know if I can handle him being the manager. So,
Trace, will you let me indulge and read some of the best Joey Votto numbers? Our good friend,
please,
and yours, Craig Sandlin, helped compile these because I was doing a few things tonight. So let me read through a couple of these, and I think it just puts Joey Votto's career into perspective. All right, so from Sarah Langs, the great Sarah Langs, Joey Votto's peak 7-year WAR was 46.9. That ranks 9th best among first basemen all time, only trailing 7 players already in the Hall of Fame, Albert Pujols, who will be. So I think when you look at the peak, that's what really sets Joey Votto apart, is when he was his best 7-year run. And I think that's the best way to view Hall of Fame players. He was as good as anyone. Joey Votto led the league in on-base percentage 7 times. The only players to do so more: Ted Williams, Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, and Rogers Hornsby. All right, from the Ryan Spader, this one is wild. Joey Votto could come out of retirement and go 0 for 477 and still have a higher lifetime on-base percentage than Tony Gwynn. From the USA Today, among players with 7,000 career plate appearances, Votto's 409 on-base percentage is the 9th best of the integration era. That's since 1947. And then the last one from our good friend and yours, Gordon Whitmire of the Cincinnati Enquirer. Only 4 players since 1900 have played in more games for the Reds than Votto: Rose, Concepcion, Larkin, and Bench. His 409 on-base percentage ranks 2nd, only behind Joe Morgan, and his 920 OPS second only to Frank Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to make the Hall of Fame. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. And if he doesn't, then I'll be shocked. And I know it's a debate. It's actually a reasonable debate. if you take off the bias that you have of Joey Votto, I think it's a reasonable debate, but I think he's in. And what's weird about this whole thing that I was going to say really quickly here before we move on, I know people are asking for some rituals here. Listen, the weird thing about all this is that Votto could have struggled in 2012 postseason. He could have struggled. And the Reds could have obviously found a way to beat the Giants, and maybe they make a run in the postseason. And I'm going to throw out a hypothetical. Let's just say the Reds win a World Series, and he went 1 for 24 or whatever in that postseason. Somehow that makes his career, for some in Cincinnati, worthwhile, and it proves that he was the prototypical franchise type player. When in reality, he would have done nothing to help them actually win the World Series while they were in the postseason. But since they didn't win, and it was, with all due respect, Johnny Cueto getting hurt and Mike Leake not throwing the ball well and Latos giving up a grand slam, as we all know, then all of a sudden now that changes someone else's career. It's hard for me to follow that logic, but that logic is what some people hold on to. So that's that. Any final parting thoughts for JV19 before we head into Reds MILB?
No, Joey Votto had a 500 on-base percentage in that postseason on one leg.
There you go. And I know that they're and we're not going to get in the debate of what. Listen, let me just say this last thing. The samples, the splits are way too small for Joey Votto's post-career or postseason stuff, okay? Not for those that are like, well, he was 3 for whatever. I don't come on. Like, let's be honest here. Let's be a little fair, okay? Let's just be fair.
Well, one last real quick point is I'm very glad that Joey Votto will be going into the Hall of Fame voting the time that he will, because I think 20 years ago I don't think Joey Votto would get in the Hall of Fame, but I think for sure that he will now. There'll be some detractors, but you know what? The good thing is, Trace, we're gonna have some really good content in 5 years. No matter what happens with the Reds. Would it come January 2020? What is it? 9/30?
Actually, I might be dead by that point.
We're having some off-season content, baby.
Fair enough. Glad you're thinking about that. Put it on the calendar. Reds MILB, because how could we go a day without knowing what the Chattanooga Lookouts do?
All right, Reds MILB. The Louisville Bats, another tough one. They fall 6-3 to Gwinnett. Bats have now lost 6 of 7, 57 and 63 on the year. The return of Connor Phillips didn't go well. 4 walks in 2 innings, only threw 40 of his 71 pitches for strikes. His first game since June 19th. Phillips has walked 54 batters in 59 innings this season. Yasver Zulueta, also a tough night for him. Guy that had struggled with his command really coming into this year, but seemed like he had got it back on track. Hopefully just a bad day. He walked 4 batters and didn't get through an inning. Brooks Kriske, the bright spot, he threw a scoreless inning with 1 strikeout. On the offensive side, Joey Wiemer on base 3 times. Boy, did he need that. That's good to see. He's really been struggling. Blake Dunn 1 for 5, did have 2 hard hit balls, including a 390-foot flyout, 103 off the bat. And Reese Hines 1 for 4 with a double, his double 110 off the bat. Down to AA, the Chattanooga Lookouts, they fall 4-2 to Mississippi. Tough day for Chase Petty. He just goes 3 1/3, 4 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Petty had been pitching really well, but fortunately his season ERA still doesn't look great. 4.84 ERA through now 23 starts, and everyone offensively was bad. Dominic Patelli 0 for 3 with a walk. Did steal 2 bags. 37 of those between Daytona and Chattanooga. Tyler Callahan 0 for 3 with a walk. Did extend his long on-base streak with that. Austin Hendrick 0 for 4. Luis May, though, in the bullpen, really good outing for him. 2 scoreless innings, just gave up 1 hit, no walks, and he struck out 2 batters. Dayton Dragons, they win 4-3 over Fort Wayne. The Dragons rallied from down 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th for their 7th straight win. Really cool rally because Jay Allen III, Ethan O'Donnell, and Leo Balcazar, 3 of the top prospects down there, all had hits in that rally. Dragons now have a 2.5-game lead over West Michigan for a second-half playoff spot. Leo Balcazar continues to heat up. He has had a really remarkable turnaround to his season. 3 for 4, hit a homer, his 4th of the year, 3 RBIs, and stole a bag. Jay Allen on base 3 times, 2 for 3 with a walk. He stole 3 bags. He's got 31 on the year. Ethan O'Donnell on base twice, stole 2 bags. Cam Collier 0 for 3, but he had a walk. He extended his long on base streak as well. And then the Daytona Tortugas, they beat Jupiter 7-1. Tortugas have won 4 of 5 and now have a 3.5 game lead over Jupiter for their second half playoff spot. Sammy Stafora on base 3 times, stole 2 bags. He's got 27 on the year. Ricardo Cabrera, 2 for 5 with a double. Yerlin Confidant, 2 for 4. Ariel Almonte hit his 20th home run of the year. And the only guy that struggled was the hottest hitter down there, Elizabeth Pineda. He goes 0 for 5.
That's your Reds MLB presented by Nick Kirby. I have some breaking news that I'm not going to break yet because I just don't think that the time is right. But I want everybody to know that I almost told everybody. But I can't do it. I can't do it. But it has something to do. It has something to do with the Reds offseason. I'm going to start just laying out little like trails of hints.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's all I can give you for tonight. Maybe that's what we'll do for the rest of the season. Every night I'm going to give you one little hint that's going to go towards the news that I found out the other day. So there is that. That pertains to your Cincinnati Reds. All right, Nick. We have who, what, when, where, and why. And then we'll get into, obviously, the rituals before we head off into the sunset. This has been an incredibly long show on a night where we had an incredibly long baseball game. But you know what? Joey Votto retired, and Ellie De La Cruz had an unbelievable baseball game, so that's kind of how things go. Who, what, when, where, and why.
All right, Reds taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates, 4-game series in Pittsburgh. Thursday, 6:40, Friday, 6:40, Saturday, 6:40, and Sunday, 1:35. The Reds have only announced Lodolo on Thursday. TBDs the rest of the way. The Pirates will be Paul Skeens, Bailey Falter, Jake Woodford, and Luis Ortiz. The Pirates, they come in struggling 3-13 in their last 16 games, but the Reds have really struggled against the Pirates. 2-4 this year. Reds have lost both series, and the Reds 5-13 in their last 18 at PNC Park. For the Pirates, Paul Skeens 7-2, 2.30 ERA, FIP under 3. Skeens did allow 4 runs for the first time in his big league career, 2 starts ago with the Dodgers. Skeens has allowed 3 runs or less in 15 of his 16 starts of the season. Skeens only allowed 2 runs in his last start against the Mariners, but did allow a career-high 4 walks. Skeens' strikeouts also down just a little bit of late. His first several starts, he had a K per 9 of 12. Last 3 just over 9. But again, we're really nitpicking on a guy that's had an incredible year. Skeens, of course, was the NL Rookie of the Year, heavy front runner for quite a while. He was minus 5,000 in early August, but he's now in second behind Jackson Merrill, who's been absolutely on fire for the Padres. The Pirates are not planning to shut down Skeens. They do not have any sort of set innings limit on him, but they will attempt to lessen his workload by cutting some starts short. Be nice if one of those are Thursday night in Pittsburgh. Of course, Skeens was dominant against the Reds in his only start back in June. 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. But De La Cruz was 2 for 3 with a double, and Spencer Steer was 2 for 3. And, of course, Paul Skeens' fastball average is 99 miles per hour. Most pitches thrown 100 or more by a starter this year. Skeens at 78. Soriano at 53. Hunter Green at 35. And then another Pirate, Jared Jones, at 23. So not a whole lot of players do what Paul Skeens does. And then for the Reds, Nick Lodolo, 9-5, 4.55 ERA. Lodolo, a 9.78 ERA over his last 4 starts. Looking a little better, though. 4.76 FIP over that stretch, so maybe he can get back on track. Lodolo pitched very well. His first career start ever at PNC Park earlier this year. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, no walks, 8 strikeouts. Lodolo's pitched very well against the Pirates in his career. Career 2.95 ERA in 3 starts, 29 strikeouts and just 2 walks. And the active Pirates are 8 for 33, no homers, 14 strikeouts, 2 walks. 2 with the most success are Oneil Cruz, who's 2 for 6, and Brian Reynolds, who's 4 for 9.
That was a lot of who, what, when, where, and why. I must say so myself, Nick. Now, I also understand that at this very moment, my job is to continue to what we would call fill the airwaves. Why? Because you had to find a pillow, is what I'm
Well, we were down 6-0, Trace, when I came down here.
Well, there's no excuses, really. I don't know what to tell you. There's really no excuses for it. So, yeah, take it away, Nick. Take it away. Nice job. Very nice. Nice. It's kind of like the change up there. What happened? Hey, who won that basketball tournament that was next to your face there? Who won that?
UConn.
UConn did. Okay. Curious. Just making sure. All right. Producer needs to cue the outro because this has been one long baseball game that just turned into one long show. If you would have told me that the over-under tonight was an hour and 15 minutes for the baseball game being played on August 21st, 2024 with the Cincinnati Reds after the series that they just played against the Royals, I would have told you, you can take it to the bank. It's going under. But when Joey Votto retires, things change. Because you can say whatever you want about Joey Votto. You can like him, you can not like him. I don't give a damn what it is, but you can't deny what he did for this club, and you can't deny what he did for basically what was every bit of my entire fandom, which was produce, be there every single day, and do his damn best. So, in his honor, I'm going to try to go be an athlete, and I'm going to do my best. So, shout out to everybody. Like the stream. Go Reds. Love all of you. A lesser athlete would have fallen right there. Athlete!